All right. Can I start? Can I start? All right, thank you. We're going to call this planning committee meeting. We're going to call this planning committee meeting to order. That work? Okay. All right. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes. Do we want to make a motion to
Oh.
the agenda?
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Great. We have a motion to approve and second it. Any discussion on the agenda topics that you guys want to review or talk about? All right. Do we need to vote on this? Okay, all in favor of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that opposes? Okay. Am I ready to go to the next bullet point, Leslie? Okay, superintendent search. So we've got 4 areas to review. We got the employment application area questions, process timelines, stakeholder groups, and assignment of duties. So do we want to start with one of the bullet points to ground us, and then we can move on to the next, which will help us make decisions? Yes. Susan gave us a timeline. Do you think that's the first place we should start?
Sure.
Okay. Do I need to make a motion to talk about this, or can we just talk? Okay, great. All right, timeline.
Would you like me to share that document?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Here's what we have. Today is March 3rd. Great. We're in development phases. The development phase. Okay. Application process. So there's 4 bullet points that we'll talk about. And then
Additional like position announcement materials, what you want those to look like.
I think if we start with the timeline, then we can narrow it down to those specifics.
So yeah,
Yeah.
based on what's done in a lot of superintendent searches, this is kind of broken into the phases. So, the first phase here, develop the timeline in the calendar, solidify the application and the announcement, marketing materials, website page, work groups, just like we said here. And then the first one under here with application, the board policy really outlines the minimum qualifications. And then it will be important for you as a committee to identify what preferred qualifications you may want that would be in addition to the minimum qualifications if there are some specific preferred qualifications. We have some narrative questions that we've used in the past, so it'll be important for you to review those if you want to use those same ones, or if you want to switch that up at all. And then we did some research on salary range. And Stephanie, when we get to that point, can share some information about that.
All right.
Well, looking at this timeline, it looks pretty good. We're just looking at the timeline.
Yeah.
As not just bullet point.
So what we're seeing is March 9th through the 29th. We're talking about recruitment and outreach and posting. Within that same time frame, we're looking at getting the employee and student groups selected and interview questions and focus group ranking screening tools development. Sorry, is this where we are interviewing at this time, or is this us deciding.
What's proposed in this is
Okay.
that from the 9th through the 29th, the application would be open
Right.
for anybody who's interested to apply. While you're waiting for that open period, it's recommended then to elicit folks who would be interested in being on those interview
Got it.
committees. During that time while you're waiting for the applications, the interested people to apply. And then that way the staff and the students who are interested in being part of the interview process, could fill out an interest survey, interest form, and so that those groups can be doing some work ahead of time while you're waiting for applications to come in. And then the next process, so that you'll be ready to go. And then I put the dates of March 30th or 31st for the board to screen applicants, and that's done in a closed session, an executive session. And some questions we have for you is, would you like the district office to do some pre-screening and then a screening matrix? We use in human resources a pre-screening tool that can be really useful. So we're happy to help with that. And then moving on through the timeline, just to give a little bit of time for pre-screening. Some suggested dates, April 7th through 8th to have semifinalists interview with the board and the employee and student groups. And then give some time for finalists to be selected. Once again, gathering feedback from the interview teams and having the board be able to look at that feedback, and the board in a closed session to select the finalists. And then the dates there in April 20th through 24th to sometime that week to select the finalists to come and spend the day in the district and participate in the community forum, gather feedback from them. And then once again, the following week for the board to meet in a closed session to be able to look at all that feedback and select your top candidate and move forward with contract negotiations. That gives you then a couple months ahead of time before the new superintendent starts.
So target date for making offers would be,
By May 1st.
target date is May 1st, so 2 weeks before April 15th, an offer would go out. Give a week to negotiate back and forth. And gives us 2 weeks to finalize it. So we're looking at, say, 15 April, maybe 22 April to have made our first or offer. So then walk that back to the finalists selected. Okay, that makes sense. 13 through 17. Okay.
And the nice thing about having that, being able to make an offer by May 1. And like I said, you're gonna need a couple weeks to be able to negotiate a contract with the new person. But it still gives the new superintendent a couple months to transition into the new position. Because leaving their current position.
And Susan's contract is at June 30th, correct?
No, my contract's done August 31st, so that I have a couple
Right.
months to work with them.
Right, but they're gonna start July 1st.
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
I mean, we extended.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, so that I can have some time to work
Yeah.
with that.
Does April 7th and 8th is the interviews with the student groups? I assume that works for the students.
Well, like I said, these are all just proposed dates. But in order to just kind of keep with the timeline, These are, so the way that we ran it last time is when the candidates came. And so, Stephanie, can you go back up there for the semifinalist interviews, like the proposed 7th through the 8th? Yeah, when they came, they interviewed with the board, with a licensed group, classified group, and then the leadership team, and then you had talked about adding a student group to that. So it would be that they would rotate through the different groups to do those interview groups. Yes. I mean, like when I did it, I was started at like 4.
Can I make a suggestion, comment? I don't think that this timeline necessarily needs to be set in stone tonight. I think it can be a guide, and as this committee moves forward, you can refine it. I think focusing on the first couple steps in order to get an application or a job posted might be a focus, and then the next time you meet, you can talk about next steps and refining those dates.
Yeah, this was just this was
good
just a
outline.
way to show you how to, as a way to show you the process. Mhm.
Okay.
So the first steps are getting, getting the job posting out there and simultaneously doing the groups. That will.
Well, this timeline has the job being posted by Monday. Which is, gonna primarily be once decisions are made, work in the HR office. Stephanie is our HR specialist, generalist. She can, I think the committee can lean on her for, getting and the application, doing the job posting.
Sure.
Once you guys define the specifics and answer the questions, maybe be.
I guess I like the timeline in the sense that we have a guide, right? That's so we don't delay. So I like what's presented here. And if everyone likes it as a guide to start us out, then we can move on to the next item. Yeah, that's great. All right, so we'll use this as a guide for our timeline. And let's go to the application and posting.
So your first 2 attachments, if you go to resources, your first 2 attachments are the previous narrative questions and the assistant superintendent, future superintendent application from 2019. So either one of those you can start with, whatever you prefer.
Do we want to talk about this out loud? Do we ask these questions out loud? I mean,
I'm sorry, what question?
Yeah, you're gonna.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just thinking. I just.
I mean, this is going to be the posting.
Right, all right.
Right.
So this will be
access.
narrative questions. So what are the 3 most important traits you possess as a leader? Number 2, have you committed yourself to understanding and aiding in the pursuit of equity and inclusion in your professional and or personal life? And 3, share an example of instructional improvement initiative you have led and how it changed student outcomes. And then we have a third question on the assistant. Attach a statement of educational philosophy.
So the question, attach a statement of educational philosophy. That was the question that I was asked when I applied for the position.
Okay.
And then the 3 questions above were for the assistant superintendent position, that we had, before the position went back to a curriculum director. We had an assistant superintendent for a couple of years. So I wanted to put all those questions up there for you to see and to see if you wanted to use some of those, all of those, or different questions.
How would these be used? They would just submit like an essay form as part of their application?
Generally, yeah,
Okay.
they attach a document.
Can we workshop, can we work on those like the next day or two? I mean, they're fine. But I'd like to, for these types of interviews, the default is always have them do some of the work for you. And I think for this level of position, I'd like to see depth view or action or task, like build me out. Like, Seaside School District recently completed a multi-$100 million upgrade to their school. Build me out a 5-year capital improvement plan that talks about what your priorities and what the school should consider and everything else. So those types of things I think would be helpful as opposed to just some of the more soft skills. I would like to see at least a more of a hard skill, specific like strategic planning and strategy question on there. And would be happy to put together a couple of those instead of just shooting from the hip. Overall,
You could also add like number 3, share an example. Never mind, so any wow words. We would want something specific, right? So if they're going to give us a narrative of how they're the best leaders, well, important traits, then give me an example, right? What did you do that defines that trait that you're seeing yourself?
Like question number 3 is good.
Mhm.
Share an example of an instructional improvement initiative you have led and how it changed student outcomes.
I do like number 3 a lot.
we expect a 20% increase in, 40% increase in, or decrease in purse funding this year. How would you respond without sacrificing education and quality of those students?
Wow.
I don't know, like just real time stuff. Have them solve some problems for us. Then if there's a bunch of good ideas, even from people we don't hire, what ideas?
That's actually not bad.
It's free consulting.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
if you would take a look at these questions, and then if there's any of these that you want to keep, or anything, if you could have it to us, in the workday Thursday. Okay, okay.
How do we decide or finalize the questions that we will be using? Do we need another work group session to approve it, or do we have to take it in front of the board meeting, or just email each other? Yeah, can we?
The board has tasked this committee.
You guys.
Okay,
making
so we're
those
good.
decisions.
Okay, and so we can do it in a group email stating these are the 3 questions that we want to see.
Yeah, and then we could do pick
Not
3.
really.
I
That's fine.
think
You could
that,
be deciding in the public
yeah,
meeting.
you should be deciding in a public meeting. And our board policy says that, there will be a opportunity for public comment, which we have on the agenda tonight. So maybe once the committee's done discussing, you can see if there are any public comments and then either like finalize some questions or look at setting another date for those questions.
Right, because if we're looking at a March 9th timeline to start posting, we'll need to meet tonight. Or make a decision tonight. Yeah,
I mean, I think if we can figure out a way to make it tonight,
I think that we.
I think that would be beneficial to everybody who get a job.
Great. All right, Jason, you're tasked with trying to figure out a question, but that's some questions.
And we can take the time tonight to do that. This is a work session,
Yeah.
so.
Okay. All right. Do we want to take some space to think about questions now, or do we want to move on to a different? Kind of keep the ball rolling.
Let's look at the application.
Okay, that looks like, let's do that. And that might actually elicit some questions that we're gonna ask. Okay. So the application.
So the application is attached. Let's see.
Would you like me to pull that up?
Are you, yes, if you are able to do that in
It's
the
the second
meeting,
resource, yeah.
Moment.
but you're not logged into Board Book.
No, but I believe I can access, oh, that's annoying. Um, the board book attachments momentarily.
You know what? It's not. I'm sorry. It was attached at the last meeting. So if you go, to the last.
It's in there under resources.
Yeah.
It is?
Resources.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's there, so, if you,
You want me to go back to this meeting?
you are in the, if you
Yeah,
go
scroll down
to,
resources, there we
oh,
go.
there it is, right there,
Okay, wow, this is really small.
yeah, you go up to, there you go. Thank you, Stephanie.
You're welcome. Okay,
So the first page is sort of the posting, the job posting, and then on the second page, the actual application starts.
Do we need to worry about the job posting, or is there a template that you guys use? Because right now it talks about, we're in the process of building up in your school.
You're all gonna have to be reading.
Yeah.
It would all be updated.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay.
Well,
Or
yes,
we do.
this committee
Or-
needs to,
To rework it.
To rework it. Okay, so should we
Yeah.
start with that then?
great.
All right.
and what, you guys can lean on staff. So if you decide, you like the basics, but you want a paragraph about something else and you want to task HR, me with, when I say HR, I'm part of HR too. And, in our, or maybe Susan's tasked with writing that post.
Yeah, and I'm happy to update it with our, latest initiatives. Here, and, besides the obvious, information about the, updating the dates. But I'm happy to update it with our, our latest initiatives. That's something that you guys don't need to necessarily spend time on unless you want to.
I don't have a need to spend time on this. You guys know what you're working on. You have your, your leaders too.
I like the cultural aspects in here, so that, the applicants can get an understanding of the seaside culture just straight on there. I think that's great. So adding on new initiatives to, what Seaside is about.
I like the discussion about the community or what we have to offer, especially about the landscape and the beauty of the ocean.
Yeah, I would say that paragraphs 3 and 4, need very minimal updating.
Yeah.
It's just, paragraphs 1 and 2 that really just need some update.
They're outdated.
All the ocean view.
Yeah, and it's always sunny here.
Oh, we don't want to, over promise.
All right, so are we comfortable with letting Susan
Yeah.
work with her team? All right, okay.
Thank you.
Second page. It is full time.
Timeline.
Start date, end date.
The timeline.
This is all still part of the posting right here. Sorry
Okay.
if I
No,
said
go
page 2 and it's not page 2. This is, the system we use, we have to put in shift type full time, whether it's administrative teaching, or other. These are the things that we automatically plug into the posting with the application timeframes, which you've kind of determined on your
Yeah.
timeline. And so Stephanie, if you scroll down further. So then this is where the actual application starts.
Okay.
And this is pretty much our standard application for licensed positions. With, you know, personal information, qualifications, and education specifically. And then there's an area for language skills, special education skills, technology skills. Many educators have coaching and advising skills, and then education, and then work experience. There's a section for work experience and education, and a section for work experience outside of education. And then, you know, we add those additional areas for instructions on the narrative questions. And then there's a place for references and attachments, etc. Legal questions that we ask in all of our applications, and an area for attachments.
That was a different document. Um, that were questions about mentors.
I believe that in one of the packets that we provided the board with at the last meeting, it did include a packet from the consultant that the district had hired, and included in that packet one of their narrative questions at that time was about mentors.
So really on this application, we have to retest season reworking the beginning posting part. And then we have to add our questions.
And you know,
And
there's
everything
the,
else is kind of standard.
yeah, there's the average things, you know, for a position like this is, you know, would be a cover letter.
Yeah.
Or letters of reference.
I think defining if you want a certain number of letters of reference, if you want a certain number of references, which are sort of two different things. Trying to think of the other things where,
You don't want some, you want transcripts.
yeah,
It's transcripts through licensure, maybe a license split. It's a question, but other than administrative license, is there a superintendent license, or do you just have to be an administrator?
you have to be licensed or eligible for licensure in the state of Oregon to hold this job. So, you know, we look at people from out of state all the time for our licensed positions. They're not necessarily currently licensed in Oregon when they apply, but one of the conditions of employment for any license would be that they would be required to get their Oregon license.
Right.
And for instance, if they were from the state of Washington and they have an administrative license that would qualify for them to be a superintendent in the state of Washington, but they don't have one in the state of Oregon, they may be eligible for one.
I guess my question is, what is the license? It's more than a teaching license.
It is
Administrative
It
license.
is an administrative license.
Is there more than that?
There
Or
is no, there used to be a superintendent license, but now it is, now it is an administrative license. Leslie, is it required for a professional license? Professional administrative license
Is what required.
to be a superintendent.
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm not that I'm aware of
Just
there.
an
Just
administrative.
an administrative
That's just like, I just never. Was one past that.
Administrative license would be equal to principal.
Right.
So a principal would qualify automatically for the superintendent position because of their current licensure.
Yeah, there's some different names, you know, there's the.
I don't track very many superintendents. I track a lot of teachers. I track a lot of teacher licensure. So
They need to have their administrative.
Okay.
Does the board policy outline those requirements? I think I saw it
So
somewhere.
under your resources
Okay.
are the CBB and CBA. And we wanna take a look at those.
Qualifications, CBA.
Yeah, CBA.
All right, so the qualifications for superintendents per the policy, current license that qualifies individuals to serve as a superintendent. Successful experience as an educational leader and administrator. In lieu of the experience and training requirements above, the board may consider a candidate for a superintendent position. An individual who meets alternative licensure requirements. The board may take steps to assist an individual qualified for such a license. So is that somebody who? What is that?
Maybe not done yet with their
Oh, okay.
admin license and you're gonna hire them in the,
Right.
and say by such and such time you need to be.
Oh, okay.
Would we want them to have had a certain administrative experience?
That is something you should define.
Yes. That's something that, yes. So,
You know, I think if I can interject.
no, go right ahead.
If I'm talking too much, let me know.
No, go.
You're guiding us. It's helpful.
Board policy defines the minimum qualifications, unless you're gonna change board policy, you have those.
Okay.
The preferred qualifications are where you have leeway, and those are the things that you can use to, for instance, define, you could define that you want so many years of experience in certain positions. You can, define that perhaps you want, that a preferred qualification is someone who speaks Spanish. Stephanie can talk a little bit more about the district's initiative over the years to promote Spanish speakers and staff. Any other preferred qualifications, then those are the things that you can start to look at when you're doing screening. Just, I think Brian talked about there being close to 80 applicants last time. And you're gonna need to, have a way that you start to screen them and preferred qualifications. To the way that you do that.
How many years of experience did you have, Susan? For taking this superintendent roles?
I had, let me see. 12 years as a teacher and then 4 years as a building principal and 4 years as a district office.
The certifications are non-negotiables, right? Like, legally required. It's not negotiables. That will be a barrier for entry for the other part of it, so I would want to minimize our benchmark or our requirements for a time, whether it's as a teacher, if someone's 5 years as a teacher and you know what, like you got their certification somehow, like shoot your shot. Like I think that we want to be careful to not put it as some 10 years as a teacher, 5 years as an administration. So I would want to minimize that as much as possible. You gotta have it 5 years, no less than 5 years teaching or as an administrator.
Well, the nice thing about preferred qualifications is that doesn't, that doesn't eliminate. It just, gives somebody, an idea of what your preferences are.
No, I think that's fine. I just don't wanna, there's language that they use now in hiring where there are groups that are historically been discriminated against inadvertently or differently. Or really, whatever. And that type of language is what I would want to ensure we're clear on. So if we're going to put anything in there, minimize it. Let's make sure that I think the certification is a good enough barrier for entry.
Well, the nice thing that is said in CBA is back here is, in lieu of the experience and training required of the board may consider, so I mean, it does give that.
Yeah.
It does give you that,
You don't want to narrow it too much, can you?
Somebody may not even
Right.
apply.
Or that.
They might even apply. Yeah.
That's right.
So as I'm looking at this application, there isn't a section that says preferred skills. Is that a preferred skill discussion that's part of the selection process, or do we put it into the application? These are the
The
preferred
preferred
qualifications.
qualifications
Yeah.
will go into the application and also for our regular positions, be kind of in that narrative letter that we
Okay.
look, that Susan's gonna revamp.
Mhm.
And that would say, these are our minimums, but like 5 years in a school position, is our preferred.
Right.
And that would be what her letter says in the application, basically copies, the letter copies into the application, and then these are just the questions that the candidate will be answering.
Okay.
One clarification question when it comes to experience. So does there have to be administrative experience for a superintendent? Not like a thing.
That's something we need to decide.
That would be a preferred requirement.
I would throw that there.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I would be on my.
Yeah.
Sure. I would prefer at least 5 years. If we're gonna give it a number.
Sure.
Because you're, under your qualifications and duties of the superintendent, number 2, successful experience as an educational leader and administrator.
So that is in it.
That's a minimum, that's a minimum.
That they do have administrative.
So preferred 5.
Right?
Yeah, you guys agree with that?
In an administrative role.
I've seen an application, in postings where it does say like, if you don't meet all of the qualifications, please apply. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Still apply. We
That's
can
the-
still add that.
Sure. There is, in the application already, like language skills, special education experience, technology skills. So. Clearly, too, it's something I'm a little bit more about, but. It's in there. We coaching, advising.
I think by defining your preferred skills in your job posting, though, then you're going into your screening. Knowing everyone knows fair playing field, everyone knows what those preferred qualifications are. So not deciding down the road, once you've been through 10 applications and getting to, the other 10 that, well, this person has all these language skills. And deciding in a moment that that's a preference. To be fair and equitable, you need to define this. So maybe Stephanie, do you think Stephanie should just talk about our language that posts our any other job posting that we do?
Okay.
Also,
Yeah, if you can talk about that and kind of like the pre-screening tool that we use.
Yeah.
That would be nice for you to talk about.
Also, I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk in this meeting, so I apologize. So we do have on all of our job postings, preferred qualification for Spanish speaking. As you are probably well aware, we have a very heavy Hispanic population and Spanish speaking population of students in the district, so we obviously like to mimic that in our staff. So we have that as a preferred qualification on everything from custodian up to potentially superintendent. We also offer a bilingual stipend now to incentivize those who speak any language aside from English. And we offer a lot of our new hire documents in Spanish, as well as we pay staff who are Spanish speakers to translate for different meetings or to translate documents for us at a higher pay rate. So obviously we prioritize having a Spanish speaker over a non in a regular position. So I would if I get to encourage you, say that that should be the first qualification, a Spanish speaker.
I would love to, yeah.
Great. As far as our matrix, yeah, how do I want to say that? This is a tool that then you're able to go down and say, okay, Susan applied for the job and she meets the minimum qualifications, great. Oh, she has her 5 years of admin, but she's not a Spanish speaker. And then Kat applied for this job and she is a Spanish speaker and has her 5 years of admin. Now we see you might be a better candidate over her. Might choose to interview both of you, but it's an easier way to narrow down your applicants compared to if you legitimately have 80 applicants and all of them meet the minimum qualifications and you don't have any preferred qualifications, it's very hard to narrow people down and you don't want to be interviewing 80 people. That's a lot.
How many sections of the matrix would be best? Like, do we need, I'm thinking of a chart in my head, right? So minimum of 5, check. Spanish speaking, check, or bilingual, whatever it might
Yeah.
be. 3 has coaching and mentoring experience, whatever, check. Like, is
You
that
can, as many preferred qualifications as you want to put,
how
you
many?
could have 15. I think that's a lot.
Yeah, that's too much.
I think
yeah.
that's a lot.
Okay.
I think 5 to 7
5 to 7.
is
Okay.
a very normal range.
Okay.
And we have things that are automatically on there, like, well, because normally we're screening our regular applicants, bilingual is always on there, school experience always on there.
Okay.
But 5 to 7 preferred qualifications would be very normal to see.
Okay. So we need to pick 5 to 7 then to talk about, or do you have the 5 to 7?
No, 5 to 7 are preferred to talk about is great.
Okay.
So it sounds like 5 years in admin is one,
Right.
and Spanish speaking.
Yeah. Or
Or
do we
just
want to
bilingual? Okay.
I wonder
there's 2.
But bilingual or Spanish speaker?
Well, it would
I
make
think
sense to have
preferably
Spanish
Spanish.
speaking.
I mean,
Spanish speaking is your,
Are, you know, how do you
your
refer to it?
minority majority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think, you know.
Versus speaking
Oh, what do you have against
Spanish.
French, Shannon?
What?
What do you have against French people?
I love French people. Cheese is delicious.
Susan is French.
Are you French?
Illegal.
My mother was French.
So Spanish speaker, Spanish speaking preferred.
Yes.
This doesn't cause any reverse discrimination, does it? For asking that?
It's a
I would say
preferred.
no.
Okay.
It's not
I
just.
just-
We can always say, well, this candidate is fantastic and they just don't speak Spanish and.
It's
It
consistent.
would still move forward, right? Like, I just didn't want to make it a cutoff.
It's consistent with every other job posting.
Yeah.
So it should-
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is
Speaking Spanish
consistent.
is a skill.
It is skill.
So
It
it's a
is
skill, not hurting.
Okay.
So everybody
Um,
has
Yeah, we're on
The ability
ours.
to
to work.
Yeah. Stephanie, can you talk about the veteran?
Oh.
Yes, we also have on our matrix for our normal positions in the schools, if they are a veteran, they get an additional point. So basically, each checkbox is a point. If they have years of experience in the school, it's a point. If they are a Spanish speaker, it's a point. If they're a veteran, it's a point.
Can we add that? I like that.
We're required to have that.
Oh, okay.
Legal
So
requirement.
that's number 3. All right.
I
We
don't
got 4
think
more
we
guys.
necessarily outline that in our posting.
Okay.
That's just something that we follow along with, and it asks that question in the application if they've served in the military or they list that in the work experience. So I mean, if you'd like to specifically outline that in your preferred,
Oh, it's already in the
but
pre-screen.
it's gonna
Oh,
be
okay, so not
already-
part of this, but
It's on
still there.
every job application.
Okay, got it.
that
So we don't need to
we-
include that. So we still need 5 more.
By law.
Mhm,
The school experience, that isn't the required, right?
correct,
Not required.
correct. I'm
But we-
speaking more
yeah.
about our like teaching positions or educational positions, custodial positions. If you've worked in a school, that's a preference.
I would hope that it. superintendent's going to-
Well, I was just wondering if there's other experience that would make sense
How
to
about budget,
leadership.
budget management, experience,
Preferred.
funds and, yeah. Budget and funds management, execution of a large
community outreach or community involvement of some sort.
Yeah, like budget.
Yeah, both of those. That's
Think
How do
about
you-
how you
Actually,
measure.
how we're gonna.
Oh.
Yeah,
Well, they're gonna need to talk about it in there.
cover letter.
In their cover letter.
Budget seems like it could be clearly defined.
Experience building or managing a budget greater than $5 million. Annual operating funds. Right. This is-
That might narrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have $30 million you gotta take care of. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of beans.
So you're saying 5 at minimum?
I'm just making
I don't know if we need to put a number in, but if you.
7.
1 million.
Well, if you don't put a number on there, you can have, me, who's, I manage my household budget,
Budget, right.
which is,
It's $1 million.
I should write in for that. Not $1 million. So, is that gonna meet your qualification? Managing a household budget
Well,
or,
we're trying to tier it out, right? So there should be, for we have a more comprehensive list of yes, nos, then there's going to be some with 8 yeses and some with 6 yeses. So
Right.
If this is really
That's the goal.
important to us with budget, should it be in preferred or should it be a question?
Well, if you want it to be a preferred, I guess do you want them to have experience, managing public budgets? Do you want them to have experience managing, school budget, district budget? I mean, you can, be as specific or non-specific if you want.
Good question, is what is your experience and level of managing budgets?
But if you're doing it as a, if you're doing it as a preferred, you would want it to experience overseeing.
Public budget, for sure.
Of at least 10 million. Just throwing a number out there.
I'm just thinking, you're an administrator and you've been educated your whole life, right? I mean, how big of a budget does an administrator?
Well, look at your principals
Right, that's
or
what I'm
assistant
saying,
principals.
how,
What is their-
what is
Would
their?
they be able to check off in the school district? Yes, to $1 million.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
And,
Would they be able to just look locally? Is that how they think, or is it such a front office?
I gather their feedback on the budgets. I mean,
But they have their own
they
budget.
have their school budget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, they have a
Yeah, like
school
10
budget
million.
of several.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't put a figure in because, you may have a candidate, who is principal or you may have a candidate from a small district.
Right.
And so, I think that, that might be limited. I mean, I know it's a preferred.
Sure.
But,
We could say school budget or.
you could say school or district budget.
Annual operating funds. Greater than
Mhm.
$5 million.
I
think private industry is different.
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the way budget.
as a practical question, maybe you have an idea. I wonder how you measure that based on the application. Like, we have language skills in the application, we have experience in the application, we can very clearly see if they meet the preferred qualification. Something like this, how do you perceive that someone would show that they meet that minimum qualification?
We talk about it in the program.
or their resume
Or we ask a question about it.
in an interview,
Yeah,
Well, I mean, on
this
the-
is.
On the. thingy.
like a narrative
Yes.
question.
Mhm.
I would say if you are a good applicant at any level, you need to be reading the questions in the interview or in the application, and you need to be updating your resume or cover letter to answer those questions.
To address the preferred qualifications, absolutely.
That would be my opinion. So I think experience managing a public budget, that's the line we're saying, no specific amount.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, no.
That's what I've heard from you.
That's great. What about number of
Profit.
people? What was this one?
I would think they did non-profit, budget wise experience with them.
That is very. We have to show where all the money's.
Yeah, I like that.
What about, experience managing a certain number of people? Whether it's administrative staff of 3 to 5 direct reports or a large organization greater than. Yes, no.
Well, our school district is at least 200, right? So if we get applicants who have managed the district of 3 before, would they be able to translate that to a larger scale? How would we be able to see that?
Well, once again, if you put a preferred qualification of experience supervising. Staff, you know, they're gonna talk about that in
And
their application materials.
one of your preferred is 5 years in administration, so. Unless you wanna set a stipulation of specifically 150 staff. I would think it's kind of redundant personally.
It's a very administrative role.
You're
Most likely have
supervising.
people under.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
What about grant writing and labor relations?
What do we, I'm sorry.
Do we want to ask for experience in labor relations or grant writing? But I don't know what principals do, like, would they, I don't want to limit them, especially if we have internal candidates or any.
Well, I think that labor relations is, I mean, some districts, the superintendent is not involved in labor relations. It is a big part of this job, so I do think it's a good word to put for preferred qualifications because it's part of the superintendent's job. So it's very, you know.
Preferred experience with labor relations.
Grant writing is, I mean, we have a grant writer, we use
Oh,
for
okay.
ESD, so
I like
I would,
that.
I would
Okay.
prioritize, the labor.
Experience. Yeah, yeah, both of those are good, but I like that experience.
Do you
Okay.
Do you want anything more specific, or do you want it simply to say experience with labor relations? You know, experience managing,
Labor relations and negotiations.
And negotiate.
And negotiations.
Did we put a community involvement one on there yet?
no, but how would you like that to be?
That's a great question. I do think it's important to have relationships with a community, like, are they members of any organizations?
Yeah,
or-
any organizations like Rotary or
Right.
Cedar, I mean, they could locally here,
Yeah.
Sure.
chamber, she said. Chamber, you know, anything like that, how do we?
We could, I mean, of course, you can ask a narrative question, but we also could probably add a section. And I'm talking out loud here, in the application to list.
List community involvement.
Community,
Organization.
membership in community organizations. You know, people could, you know, like you list your work experience.
Right.
list those.
Okay.
You could have coaching advising and community.
Yeah,
I mean, just
Yeah,
one of them.
yeah. Right.
Coaching,
Like,
you know, you
kind
volunteer
of
extra
like
time
that
for
coaching
it.
where you would check out, you know, yes or no,
Okay.
and list your.
So
That's
then
a
in
great
the
place for that.
in the preferred area, we go into it by saying it. Or
It
you
would
don't
be
have to?
it would be a spot to fill out on the application.
But I think some point, if you're going to use that, then in your screening tool, it probably should in the narrative section of where you're listing those preferred qualifications also be listed.
They should be listed.
In association.
Yeah, and I mean, when you're checking off those preferred qualifications, I mean, you can use any of the materials, any of the application materials to find that.
Right.
Okay, how many?
Yeah,
How
how
many
many
do they have there?
Five.
That's
Okay.
Five.
We're good, 5. All right.
Okay, so involvement in community community partnerships, community
Partnerships.
organizations. Yeah, partnerships and associations.
Partnerships and organizations. Partnerships or organizations. yeah. Community outreach. Or, it's a big part of the job, yeah. Okay.
Well, it is important.
It is very important.
To summarize, just to make sure that we're all on the
Thank
same
you.
page. Number one, 5 years in administration. These are preferred. Number two, Spanish speaking. Number three, experience managing a public budget. Number four, experience with labor relations and negotiations. And number five, involvement in community partnerships or organizations.
Are we saying at least 5 years experience in administration or 5 years?
At least.
Yeah, at least.
Beautiful.
What's next? What else do you need from us?
Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's look at my document.
Yeah.
Which is not that one.
Okay, so okay, when you look at, back to our bullet points, employment application and narrative questions. Let's
So
go
the
back to
question
narrative. Process timeline. We
got the
still
timeline.
have stakeholder groups and teams and assignment of duties. Okay.
Why don't we do stakeholder groups and teams? And is that specific to the panel interview groups? Or is that?
That's what that means.
It was the groups that you would like involved in the interview process.
Involved in the interview.
So I think like, so they'll interview with the board. And then I think the leadership team of the district should get a chance to interview the candidates.
Mm,
Licensed group,
Licensed group,
classified group,
and we want to go students.
and Jason, you had kind of made a document about that, or any other groups that you read?
I had selection by maybe certified, classified student, family, external partners, community at large was like the brainstorm there. So I would like to whittle that down markedly. I would like to see. I like that journey. I think whether we split it on the x-axis or the y-axis for including the different groups in different places, whether that's certified, classified staff with the panel, like with us in that first round, and then a separate one with them and administrators, like current existing administrators. I like interview processes where you have to also interview with people that you manage. That is a really, one, it's uncomfortable, and two, it gives people more buy-in. To say like they had a hand in picking that. So beyond just the staff, but also, or excuse me, the certified classified staff, but also the administration too. So
So I think when we said leadership team, that's what we meant.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what
so.
it is.
But that also includes like, director of curriculum, right?
Yes, so the leadership team, is the building administrators and the directors. I mean, I would recommend that it also include, some people from this office. I mean, like, HR, business manager, and then I would also recommend, that it include, the 3 departments that are direct reports to the superintendent, which is the transportation supervisor, the technology supervisor, and facilities.
So those are just, so all of that is the direct reports for the superintendent, correct? That whole list. Okay. So do we have that separate from this certified and classified staff, you think? Or do you think
Yeah,
one big
that's considered the leadership team.
as one panel?
So we need this just in a table and just to say like, hey, here's the panel. Here are here's who they are. Here's where they interview, what stage they interview, how that is, and then each one would have a select list of questions. And then just roll that down across 4 different groups or 5 groups.
It would be
You just
5
need-
different groups,
You just need to put it into it.
And then then the candidates rotated through those different groups.
Yeah.
But they're not having to progress, like, if they don't meet the staff qualifications, they
No.
don't get to see leadership, but they get to see every
Get to
panel,
see
right?
every-
Yeah.
They go through every group.
What were the 5 again that you have?
Board,
Mhm.
what they call the leadership team, so direct
Yep.
reports, classified staff,
Oh, separated them now, okay,
certified staff.
Okay.
Student.
students.
I know that the classified certified piece, I think it would be good to bring doer up into our group as part of that
Mhm.
interview. And just to have some diversity there and saying like, yes, we're gonna see him later, but I think involving him as part of the continued discussions or whatever it is would be beneficial. And I just wanted to put that out there for discussion.
Because we heard from the representatives that they would like to be a part of
Right.
this
Right.
conversation. So is that a separate group or is that parts of the groups? You know, that's,
I think, I mean, that would be.
That
their
would be
involvement,
the,
is
that
we
would
get
be
to
the
run a
licensed
whole-
group. That
We
would be
get
the
to run a
licensed group.
whole session with the candidate.
If I was them, I would say, I gotta run one session, but I wasn't really involved.
Okay, what else do you mean by, I mean, they get to provide feedback and be like, oh, right here, but only Brett, or do you want to bring in one from each group?
One from Brett or whatever it is, someone else that's not just this group.
Well, then, the board is gonna be one group of the interview groups.
Do you want them out here tonight?
And
Oh,
just work
during
that-
this?
Listen, I'm just throwing out.
Yeah, I just felt like this was more of like a logistical, like, this is how we're gonna go.
Sure,
about it.
and yeah,
You know
this
what
is
I mean?
gross. He would want to come to this.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes,
Right.
But that's 3 minutes and there's no dialogue back and forth, it's fixed.
My understanding is that after these 5 groups interview these candidates, we are all going to, somebody,
You're gonna get feedback
probably
from
a
them.
representative, or let's say, is gonna come in and say, this is what we developed from these 5 candidates. And then in that meeting, there's gonna be more than 3 minutes to discuss, this was my, and that will be the involvement that we.
I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough to say for the hiring position we're hiring into, the commitment we are all making to this new person. And to say to them like, one, like, if they're part of the decision, the more they're involved, the more they own it with the rest of us. So if it doesn't really turn out all that great, or there's problems, like, we gotta go back on that point of, hey, you were there from the beginning, the middle, and the end. Not just, oh, we gotta do one interview. And then we didn't even get our first pick, we got our 3rd pick. Right? If it's 1 point, but if it's additional points of 2 more butts and seats, or whatever that looks like. I think that helps shape this discussion more as well.
What if we had one board member attend their interview panel?
Or we come down from on high, Mark, golden pedestal.
Oh,
No,
but in
they
a sense
just have
of
different
hearing from that
people.
team, right? I think it's good to hear from these certified or even classified team, right? To see what kind of discussions and what kind of questions they're asking, because then that tells us what's important to them.
Well, we'll know the
And
questions
that's
they're gonna ask.
that's a really important part of it, is because it's important for each group to develop their own question. Because what you as a board are gonna wanna ask may be something completely different than what the leadership team may wanna ask, than what the community may wanna ask, than what the classified staff may wanna ask. And you know, and then what the students may wanna ask. And I think, I mean, from going through it myself and, you know, being interviewed by each of the groups, the questions were really different. And I appreciated that.
So how do you get that information from those sessions back to us who's making the final decision? I think that's what you're trying to get at, right? Like, how do we?
To have a group meeting with a representative from each group.
Right, to be able to come and tell us what they thought?
Well, and that's
I
part of that's part of the process, Stephanie, if you go back up.
I think it's.
Right, okay, can you go back up now? Before, almost there, right there. So employee, student groups selected, interview questions and focus group ranking, screening tools developed. So I think part of that recommendation, to make sure that you have a fair and equitable process is determine how each of those groups are going, once they ask questions, is how that team is going to evaluate each candidate and rank them and share that information back to the board who makes the final decision.
So are you asking for them to be in the committee, this committee?
I think that's kind of where I'm going with it. I don't know what, I've never done this before, so I don't know what the next phases are as part of our discussions and milestones and everything else. Seeing that and laying it out and then kind of talking through what the groups would be feels too disjointed, and it doesn't feel like we are all doing this together, that there's different sections, but then eventually we all go behind a closed door, and that's what happens, right? And I understand that, and that's fine. But I want to make sure that all of the stakeholders, as they've all asked for, consider that, like they do get that involvement through as many phases as possible. And yes, of course, right, their own questions, have their grading rubric, and if we can go in and at least be part of that, that would be fantastic. But I also think that we need some additional representation here, kind of seeing how the sausage is. Because Leslie gets to have input, right? And that's great, and that's helpful. And I think that having more people here, whether it's just two more, to say, hey, what else is important to you? What's like a non-starter for you? Or what's sure, right? Like,
Oh, okay.
I don't
So,
know.
you're gonna have public comment to talk about.
And I think that, as a overarching leadership team, you prioritizing staff involvement and saying you want to hear from different staff groups, maybe it's not Brett Doer as a representative, but all of the SEA staff, then that can filter, through you, and that can filter through Shannon as they reach out to you specifically versus coming into these meetings.
So I think the purpose of this is just to lay out the structure, right? The structure and the bones of how we're
Right.
going to
sure,
actually implement and do this. When I suggested a board member coming to one of their sessions, it's not to speak, but it's to listen.
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So they finish their interviews, and then at that time, perhaps a board member can ask them, what do you think? Then that's part of that process of, we want to hear what they're looking for and make sure that is included in our final decision. So I'm thinking like, we put in the extra work of going to them, right? Not saying I'm coming from above down, am I from a golden pedestal, but I want to hear what they thought of the candidates.
Yeah, and I, of course, when I was a candidate for this position, I didn't know about that process of how they did that. But in other districts I've been in, that's what the board did. So they had a representative from each of the groups, then come and give their feedback. Okay, this is what our, this is what our group, we interviewed, these 6 candidates, this is how we ranked them, this is why we ranked them, or, and then they shared that feedback at the board.
Do they want us in there?
Yeah, that, I think.
Oh,
Would they rather just do their own?
Oh, you mean during,
They might want to be comfortable asking.
it was kind of, like I said, in districts I've been in, that's afterwards and after.
I guess we
But
haven't
they can
built that
talk
relationship
candidly,
yet.
they can talk candidly about themselves around,
Right.
with themselves.
But I do want to say that
It's not your right.
Yeah, there's the
one of our main goals is what you're saying. One of our main goals is that we're making this election as a team, and that means the board, the district, everybody in the district, the community. We're making this as a team. How do we incorporate that from the beginning to the end? Totally understand the question. Then we can figure out what that.
Sure.
I just feel like, so we've got this meeting today,
Yes, you do.
We're gonna we're gonna get this application out there. ASAP.
Over the fence.
Get it out. Then our next step is to get all these community groups together.
Correct.
School groups together and figure out what questions they want to ask, how, you know. All of that.
Respect.
So,
Maybe it's us asking them, what are they looking for?
But then,
Not being part of their interview, but perhaps meeting with those groups and
so let's
saying,
get those groups together.
yeah, get those groups together and ask them,
Yes.
what are you looking for, so that we know what.
Here's what we think. Here's our agenda. This is what we're thinking. What do you think? Does this work for you? Does this make sense? Are there any other blind spots that we're not considering? And then they say, yeah, no, that's who we want to interview with. Yeah, it'd be great to have a board member there. No, absolutely not. I don't want to understand.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is. So, but maybe that's the next piece of at least get them in a room and have a messy conversation with them to finalize like what that interview process will look like.
So if you, okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, because if one of you would be part of another interview team, who would be the interview team for the board?
Why would we not be able to do both?
well, it depends on how you logistically want to plan it out. So if you've got 6 candidates that you're all bringing to interview in one night.
Yeah.
And they can rotate around.
How are
The
they gonna
board
be in
wants to
2
be.
places at once?
We want to have. We would figure it out.
Another possibility would be they rotate around and interviews get done at 9 p.m. and then the board rotates around to these groups and say, what did you think of these people? What did you think?
But you also have to, sorry, I didn't mean to
I was
interrupt
just
you.
gonna say, like, get their fresh off the cuff opinions of these candidates immediately.
Yeah, you also have to give the teams time to,
No, yeah.
Okay.
anyway, I think we're probably getting too much into the weeds.
I think there was time, there is time. And there is a place for everybody to get involved. I know it's not tonight.
Fair.
Fair, but I
It is
feel
beginning.
like there is still. Time to say, okay, you know, if you wanna be involved. Fill out this survey, you know, we're gonna make a team of these people, come together, we're gonna figure out what kind of questions you wanna ask. And in their questions, asking to me means this is what they're looking for, right? I'm not gonna ask which favorite color they don't care. You know what I mean? Like their questions are gonna be thoughtful and this, and pointedly, yeah, this is what we're.
I think that's great. I
That's
just
the
want to
whole
make sure.
discussion. So I feel like, I agree with you, like I want them involved, but I feel like
I agree.
is that not enough involvement?
I don't know. I don't know
Then
how
they're
they will
picky.
feel about it, is my point. So when they ask initially to say we want to be involved, I don't know what that means. And if we go out of our way to at least say, you know what, we're gonna have a Zoom, it's gonna be Thursday night. We want these are our draft stakeholder groups. We want them in the room for a quick conversation. Hey, this is how we've mapped this out. This is how we think we're gonna run interviews. These are who we think are in the room. Are we all on the same page? And then that's it. Like, hear it from other people, understand what the concerns are, small dial adjustments, and then we walk out.
Let's tweak that a little bit to be everybody who asked that question, because we also had other staff who said they want to be involved too. So we want to make sure that all groups are being a part of this.
Correct.
Well, there's also something to be said, this is a known event, right? So if they were interested in being part of the planning, then would they be here?
I don't know what their schedule looks like, and so I don't want to judge it.
What's sent out, it was sent out to all staff. Yeah, last.
Or next steps is we do present it to the interested parties, and as you said, hey, here's what we got laid out from our brainstorming session. I'll need your feedback, what are you looking at, or how are you?
But if we ask for that feedback, my only concern when. Right now, asking for like, hey, these are their qualifications, what do you think? Now we're delayed in getting the application
No,
out.
I'm good there. I'm good there.
Okay.
I just mean in the
Okay.
interview process
Yeah.
and what that structure looks like.
Right,
That's my point. And then I would like to have better representation in this group. Having this being the first meeting. A more diverse representation from some stuff for this group.
Oh, we're meeting again.
I don't know.
that's what I thought.
I don't know
I thought this was it.
I don't know that this group is gonna need to meet again.
Because again, it's the bones, because right here we have assignment of duties, right? Chuck wanted to be involved in the interview process. So if we assign Chuck, do this, and what you're asking for, let him figure out how to make that work.
I mean,
No, oh, sorry.
this,
This committee
Oh,
was
okay.
asked by the board to make these decisions.
Yep,
right?
yep.
And so, I
Ah.
mean,
That
I
is a decision.
envisioned that you would be,
I
Yeah.
assumed this was a
and
multi-meeting.
maybe your next meeting includes a work session where you invite employee groups, you set aside a certain period of time. So like you said, throw out what's been discussed and get feedback.
Right.
And
Okay.
you're
Yeah,
gonna
it
have to
I
decide
took this differently.
when you seek stakeholders, like
Mhm.
maybe sending out an application, people have to fill
Right.
out, and then if you get 50 people who wanna be on the licensed group, are you randomly selecting names out of a hat? Based on, the
Right.
or maybe part of the work session, maybe I'm overstepping, like I said, I seem to be having some input. when
Oh, you're adding
maybe other
value and you're a
people are-
diverse member of this group that is not,
I know.
like, that's my point.
I
Like, what you're
totally
doing-
appreciate it,
Yeah.
and so maybe that your next meeting at that work session is answering some of those very questions
Right.
with
Fair.
those.
Here's our-
those
That sounds
stakeholders.
great.
No, I think that sounds great. I took this session as a one-time thing, and then it was split up, and then it splits up into different.
And then we're.
Well, if you,
Subcommittees,
yeah, if you go
so-
back to your time, if
Okay.
you go back to the timeline, the first meeting is, to develop this process, okay?
Mhm.
And then, once the application goes out, then the second there, can you go back up? Yeah, there we go. Okay, while the application is out and you're going to be getting applications in, then, well, this meeting isn't a one-off, I mean, this is kind of the bulk right now. And then, go back up, Stephanie.
Sorry.
The employee and student groups selected interview questions and focus group rankings. That's where, which is important to talk about here. Once you've established which groups those are, which I think you've established, the board, the leadership team, the licensed, the classified, and the students. And then I don't think you established yet whether you want the community to be part of that first phase or a visit back for the finalists. So that's something you're gonna need to decide about community. But whether it's 5 or 6 groups, that's where it's gonna be really important to work with the groups and like Leslie and Stephanie just said, to be able to say, how are you going to recruit members from each of those groups? Putting it out there for everybody, having them filling out a form, because you're gonna wanna know that they can commit through they can commit through the whole process. And then what are you gonna do if you have, let's say you want 10 to 12 people on that interview committee. What if you get 50 people who are interested in it? Are you gonna do a random selection? Or are you gonna say, oh, I want 3 people from elementary, I want 3 people from middle, I want 3 people from grad, I want specialists, how
We gotta
how
figure that out.
and so you're just gonna need to define that. And so that's an equitable process.
That's kind of what I had envisioned, I guess, was that's. when we were
And
gonna
then,
figure that out.
yeah, and then, being able to, and like Jason said, being able to have a meeting with those people, with all of those stakeholders to say, hey, what do you want this process to look like? And,
But do you think they need to have input on the application and preferred questions? Because
No.
on our timeline.
No, we're good. We
Yeah,
can
we gotta
keep
get
that.
that out.
Okay,
Like, that can go.
so,
It's pretty
Objective
standard
complete.
there.
all right,
Yeah.
so process timeline, we're good. Do you have everything to be able to post by next week?
we just need to
The
decide
narrative
on
plan,
your narrative.
narrative questions.
I
Okay.
got those. I shared the
Okay.
document with you.
Okay,
With everyone or just?
Just Kat, because no, of course I show it. I always share it. I know. Don't yell at me. You have it too.
I have it.
You wrote.
So. Can you spell your last name?
Oh. Oh.
Would you like to share those narrative questions?
yeah, let's do that.
I don't know if we established, one question I had was, when we do have those groups, is the union group gonna be a separate one? Or will they be part of the leadership?
Yes, we have two unions. We have our licensed union and our classified.
Will they be a part of the licensed and classified group?
Yeah.
Will they be part of their own groups? Will they be part of leadership?
You mean in the focus group? We talked about there being a licensed group, a classified group, a leadership team and
Or
direct reports group. So those are like classified and licensed, two separate groups, leadership, another separate group.
And then
Is that
whoever
right?
wanted to participate in their.
whoever
whether
wanted
they're
to
union-
participate, you know,
Yeah.
who's in the license group. And whoever's in the- But I think we can talk about that at our next work session.
I can't
Really.
open these questions.
What?
It says I'm not secure.
Oh, I had that happen too. I had to go to my phone, Wi-Fi.
You're there.
Yeah, I'll just put that there.
So the
Alright.
way that how that's set up
Yeah,
is,
do you want this shared publicly? Like for evaluation or comments there?
I think that like that's what we would use, and if there's people here that are cheating, good for them for being present.
Okay.
But
It's true.
that's the question is in blah, 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 walk us through this. And then try to build out like, okay, how do we assess that, right? So for evaluation, principles to prioritize, discuss, and every question is structured that way.
Are you
So-
saying that these are the essays?
I don't know, I
Yes,
thought,
that's
yeah.
what he-
that
That's
was
what
my
he said.
Was to say, there's a question there. And then we consider when we evaluate it, like we are looking
At those comments.
do it. We're looking at the below eval for the eval section there below.
Alright, so the question is, Oregon districts are facing increased cost pressure driven in part by PERS and other statewide and federal funding dynamics. So in 300 to 400 words, walk us through how you would approach a multi-year structural budget gap while aiming to protect instructional quality and avoid staff reduction. And then for eval, we're looking for these 3 bullet points.
I'm
Interesting.
not comfortable for how you're gonna evaluate that being shared out.
I would agree.
No, we wouldn't share that.
I wonder sharing.
Yeah, now.
You can
Step
see
18
it,
off.
you can see it, so.
Well, this meeting's recorded, it'll be posted online,
Yeah.
so anyone who wants to see it will see it.
Okay.
I'll just say it's-
I'm sorry that you got. Well, I made it. I get that sometimes, I have to switch over to like my phone hotspot instead of Wi-Fi. Yeah. Or I share it across.
So would we like to talk out loud about question 2? I mean, we're discussing narrative question examples that we previously used.
You know, Mayor, I mean, anyone can watch the recording. Am I going to read it out loud or we just?
Yes, we just want to discuss the evaluative
Oh, God, I got it.
bullet points.
Okay, so capital improvement planning after major build. So Seaside recently completed a major middle high school project. Describe how you would build a 3, 5, and 10-year capital improvement plan that is financially realistic and publicly credible. And 3. Describe a time he had led a district through a high conflict issue. 4. Explain how you evaluate whether instructional changes are actually improving student outcomes.
I really like number 6 too, with the equity inclusion serving verse, because that was one of the that on it. So.
Describe your approach to building a productive relationship with both certified classified staff groups. And then describe how you ensure historically underserved. It's jumping stuff. Messing
No,
with the,
sorry, I'm deleting the rubric.
describe how you balance a diverse group of stakeholders to make strong, timely decisions while maintaining trust.
You skip number 6.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Describe how you ensure historically underserved students are supported without creating fragmented initiatives.
You did a really good job reading that. It's hard, especially with the jumping around.
Yeah.
Your application questions.
These are narrative questions that they would respond to in a essay form. I think 7 seems like a lot.
It's a lot of questions.
Oh, 7's way too many.
Yeah, yeah.
I do that too, probably. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Can they pick three? Do we have that ability in the application?
You need to be able to them. Each applicant.
That, okay.
Would a principal, or, yeah, principal, would they be able to show that they would have an understanding of the 3, 5, 10-year capital improvement plan? Are we asking too much of what their experience level would be? To be able to answer this? I just don't know. It's mainly superintendent.
But they're applying for a superintendent job.
What question? are you
Yeah,
talking about?
so-
Sorry.
I just want us to be, we're talking about a superintendent candidate.
Right, I just, because I'm thinking like, let's say there's somebody who's a principal but has no experience as superintendent, so would they be able to answer this at all? Or they just take it a shot in the dark of,
Which question are you?
I'll just the capital improvements or even budget gaps, right? Like how involved in their actual administrative experience would lend to be able to answer this question?
We don't have to have done it before. They just have to describe how they would. You know, so. They would have to just describe how they would do it, similar to what we're trying to do now as a board and like to build out a SIP like. We've never done that for a school district before, so just taking a swing at it.
And be aware of what they'd be doing.
Another executive, right, but someone hiring into an executive position should be able to take a crack at that.
It might take some research.
I just want, maybe I prefer this, they have some awareness of what the role of the superintendent does, so they can be able to answer this. I just don't want to throw someone off guard.
Well, what's nice about our application process is that they can complete 75% of it, get to these and take a step away save it. Take a step away for a week while they're researching whatever they want to research, write their little things, and then come back in and upload that and then submit. As long as they're within that time period.
And this is a big role with a lot of responsibilities and very in-depth. I mean, just watching Susan with all the things, there's law, there's just so many things that go into being a superintendent that I think we do have to ask some important questions to get them thinking about how big this role is that they will be taking on. So without creating stumbling blocks, of course, we're not trying to do that, but how do we get them to understand not get them to understand, because when you're applying for a superintendent job, I think you should start with knowing this is a big job, right? Start researching. Yeah.
It would add value to see. And I like seeing how someone thinks a leadership plan, their soft skills and explain their soft skills. I think that's great. Anybody can wax poetic though about what kind of leader they are. If this is going to be a screening tool, I would like to see a more quantitative, objective discussion on show me your plan. How do you get things done?
Okay.
And then outline that in prose.
And it is a fair question to ask somebody if they have experience with a capital improvement project.
Okay.
In answer to your question, maybe somebody who, whether they've been in a large district and they've been in a district office position, maybe they helped with the capital improvement project and they can talk about that.
Okay.
Maybe they can talk about, hey, I was part of this administrative team who worked on this project, or we upgraded the middle school where I was the principal and, I helped the district with this process. They can talk about it like that. But, because people, you're gonna get a variety of applicants that will be able to address their specific role in that if they have experience with capital. So, I mean, it is whether it's a summer project, whether it's a complete overhaul like we did, I mean, it is a part of the job.
It's summer, if only it was a summer project.
Huh?
So if only it was a summer project. I think there's nothing wrong with saying I've never done this before. Here's how I would.
Right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No problem.
Yeah.
And okay, so with these, are we putting an AI disclaimer at the top?
I
That's
just
I was
thought
gonna
about
ask
that.
I was going to ask that, how do we determine if they use AI?
You
can
be
use-
able to work if I can say that. I'm not gonna lie.
You wouldn't be able to work if you didn't
No,
use AI.
AI is so helpful to somebody who has trouble connecting words together. So it is what it is, and I'm not ashamed of saying it
You
because
don't
I
have
have,
shame to say
I,
this.
I have trouble putting words, connecting them together, and it has been one of the most helpful tools for me. So I would hate to put that on somebody else not able to utilize supports.
You just ask them, hey, did you use AI? I didn't see it.
Well,
Just say, yeah.
I've seen statements written before where saying we are, we're looking for original. Original essays.
Okay.
That are. I'll have to look at the wording, but yeah, I've seen those, I've
Yeah.
seen statements like that before,
I also,
please submit, original.
there's no way,
Produced essays.
there's no way to confirm it. The only thing you can do is put controls in there where you can't paste in, but I like to write in Word documents and then paste in, just because you can see the spell check and everything else. So you can't paste in, so.
I guess we can also determine just based off of AI versus someone putting something in, because it's their meat or substance and what they're writing. I think.
Can they speak to it?
Yeah, because it's different, like, they can put something great together, that's where the interview process comes in,
Right.
and they,
Actually articulate that.
Okay, so how many questions? Yeah,
Let's start, how many questions?
three.
Three,
Three is plenty.
three's
Okay.
great.
I like the capital improvement personally.
Over the budget
I
question,
like the budget.
I like the budget one too.
I like 6, I like 2, 6. You just want like the first one because they would do our homework for us. It's part of the strategic plan. I think we try.
Oh. Be a
Uh,
twofer.
diabolical.
I like
Global
budget.
view, which is more of a capital.
I think if you guys are saying your preferred qualifications are public budget, experience, labor relations, and community partnerships, do you want to mimic that in your narratives, or do you want to talk to something else and have them speak to this preferred experience in their cover letters and speak to other experience in their?
Ooh,
I vote 1, 5, 6.
I like 5. Would you like 6?
These holes.
I've stripped out the rubric now too, so. Yeah,
Like
sure.
law.
Influence in the superintendent have. Is there a lot of, law knowledge or law influence? Either or.
Well, you have to have a lot of knowledge of the law and especially special education law, but all the other laws as far as law influence,
Like government affairs. Type of word.
well, we do communicate with our employees. Both our local and federal officials, pretty regularly, but, you do have to follow the law, we do, consult with our legal counsel quite a bit, but.
Okay, but nothing that's, we're just gonna go to Salem and just be part of that, okay, yeah, just didn't know how big, okay. Do we wanna go around and say what our favorites are and then I'll tally it up?
Well, you would probably make a motion for which 3 that you want.
Oh.
I'm not doing that motion. I'm too much of a bully and I'm swaying the group in too much. directions.
But you unless you're me, you want that acquisition with
Oh, you're saying put a motion.
Or just make it. Then you don't know. Okay, sounds like you don't need a motion.
Yeah, sorry.
With
So
the,
Jason, you said 1, 5, 6. For you, those ones.
I prefer 1, 5, 6.
1, 5.
But I love them all.
Sandra,
1, 5,
what do you
6.
want?
Off the top of my head right now, number 3 is huge right now, I think. 1. And 4. They're all great.
Wow.
Shannon?
1, 4, 6.
2, 5, 6.
okay, they're all important.
Well, 1,
What do you prefer?
Yeah, what do you?
me?
You're an expert. You're the only expert on this group, so.
Well, I would say I like number one the most. I don't like that we've already shared what you would rubric.
I will just change it.
We'll change that.
You'll change that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm. Hmm. I like six. I like one. I think those would be my top two. I don't know if I have a third that stands out to me personally. But as far as the committee, we've got three ones, we've got three sixes.
Okay.
So I think those are safe decisions.
Okay.
Okay, and then we have two fours, two fives. And then some outliers. So,
My thing, I mean, I'm not sold, I'm for necessarily, but we are in education, so maybe we have a question about instructional leadership and education. Was my thought process on that?
Kind of goes with the narrative questions that was presented in under resource. Share an example of an instructional improvement initiative you have led and how it changed student outcomes.
Questions somewhere on it.
Well, this is what we're trying to either replace or, yeah.
do you want to stick with the same language that you would use previously, or would you like that?
I lied number three on this one from the resource material, which is similar to what you wrote.
I like it too.
I'll stick with the same language that was used previously.
Can you remember the question?
Yeah, sharing whether instructional improvement initiative you applied in college.
Yeah, I like
That's number four, right?
Yeah, it's equivalent to number four.
Yeah,
correct.
equivalent. I just like how this is
It's
worded.
worded
Number
differently
three
on
of what
the
was
old
on the
application.
assessment.
Gotcha, yes.
So, yay on that previous language.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll probably.
Okay. Great. Well, if we look at our timeline document, would you like us to have a, big banner on the website? What do you envision being website? And also, do
Bigger
you
the better.
envision just do you envision just having this letter and saying, hey, this is what we're doing, this is where we're recruiting for this position, or do you want this like beautiful packet with this beautiful marketing materials? With pictures of Camel Beach and Chris's Candy Kitchen, what is your vision, or do you wanna
Is this the
say,
marketing aspect?
yeah,
Alright, okay. So most districts put a page on their website about
Okay.
their superintendent search. There's some really good examples. We looked at a few today. And I think that, that kind of, increases the transparency in the process. It shares the timeline, it shares all the resources. And, it's a great way, like sharing out information on Parent Square, we can direct them to that page. And it also is a great way to hold all of the forms, for instance, any of those groups, like a student to fill out a form if they're interested in being on the interview committee or any of the other employee groups or anybody, you can have all that information right there.
What job boards does it go out on?
another conversation happening. Typically, our regular positions would be going out onto like School Spring, which is like a statewide software that sends out to people who are interested in school related jobs.
Yeah.
We'll be posting it on TACOSA, Coalition of School Administrators. we'll be posting it to, if you would like. If you would like, we could post it to Oregon Schools Business Association, folks follow.
Oh,
You know,
OSBA.
board.
OSBA.
OSBA as
Oregon
well.
School Board Association.
Yeah. Okay, great, yeah, you know more than I do. And then, I mean, again, that's a topic to discuss, do you want me to post on Craigslist?
You,
No,
No.
no, I'm just kidding, I don't know.
well, they can have LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
I think-
LinkedIn,
okay.
Indeed, I think having
Yeah, we have it right there.
maybe a graphic to post on like the high school and the elementary school Facebook pages.
Yes.
Yeah,
And maybe that just filters back to the website, I mean,
I
I
wanna,
think,
let's be strategic in, you know, where we share it, how it's there, but if, I just wanna make sure we hit the big ones, and you know what the big ones are. And that it is statewide,
mhm.
West Coast, nationwide, whatever the right level is. Just, you know, without just spamming it out all over.
Well, do you want it nationwide?
Because I think of Indeed, right? You
Why
wanna go,
wouldn't? Other than, you know, and maybe that needs to be, are you willing to relocate? Maybe that's one of the questions we need to add. Were you willing to relocate? The start date is this, you need to be butts in seat on this day. Are you willing to do that? And if that, to me, is a barrier for hiring as well.
I think that's a verbal conversation.
Yeah,
Have
I
that
do
interview process.
COSA is a, I mean, goes out to a lot of people and,
is that nationwide? Or is that
no,
Oregon?
it's Oregon, but
Okay.
it gets shared out a lot.
Okay.
So we'll I mean, the ones that we have listed here, the 5 we have listed here, but you know, we'll look into, I mean, there's some sites in California and Washington that we can definitely, look into.
Is the superintendent role, say like in Texas, very similar to any other state?
Well,
Oregon, or is it?
It's
It's
not fair, it's on those.
I mean, anyone coming out of state is going to need to learn the Oregon laws.
Okay.
But it's not uncommon for somebody, you know, to take a job out of state.
Got it.
It's not uncommon.
How do we feel about the Texas tax umbrella?
Wonderful,
I
right?
like that, right?
Oh, the southern accent is great. It's pleasant.
No, I'm saying
It's
Texas is
instantly calming.
lockdown for armadillos, not bears.
Oh.
Bear
Maybe
lockdown?
insecure.
Do you not read your
She doesn't-
emails?
No.
I think I know
It's
we're
mostly
joking, but I don't know that
secondary school.
everybody would know we're joking.
Like, they would have
Um,
Can I bring us back?
Yeah, let's bring it up. Oh my God, I'm a bad job.
We're gonna bring you back.
Okay.
Can
All right.
I, can I
Yes.
summarize that?
Thank you.
The committee is good with the HR department, putting
Yes.
together some
Yes.
marketing materials, and the district office staff, creating a web page where we can post information, get the word out. That's the central resource for
And
information. Go for it.
to clarify these marketing materials, you know, Sandra, you had mentioned earlier, focusing on like the multi-generational piece and culture of Seaside. Is there anything else that you guys specifically want included in any type of marketing materials? No, it would include pictures, we might talk about the beautiful roaming beaches, you know, is
Elk.
okay,
Bears.
Okay,
bears.
no.
Yeah, well,
wildlife, maybe,
Yeah.
okay.
We have great,
New schools.
Yeah,
New
brand new
school,
buildings.
We will work on that.
Yeah.
Use.
While we're talking about the
Something you're hard.
While we're talking about the culture and the multi-generational, I think we still need to sound welcoming to somebody.
Oh,
you know,
yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Put language in there that adds that.
Okay, so you've made all the decisions you need for your application. You've chosen your 3 narrative questions. You've reviewed the requirements in the board policies, CBA and CBB. You have your list of preferred qualifications. You
Got our
have
state
approved your template for the timeline. You have, you talked about your, I mean, are your stakeholder groups, you've identified 5, you still need to decide about your community group. Do you want a community group to be part of the initial, the initial interviews, or do you want them to be the community group for your finalists to come back?
I think finalists, when they're doing rounding.
Okay, now the last thing we have on here is assignment of duties. And so I think we talked about that, and the district office is going to, based on your information, develop the application and with those narrative questions and the webpage to have that ready to go out. And then the goal is to have that posted on by Monday. Or as early as we can, if Monday's not possible. And then, Stephanie, you and I can research a little bit more besides the 5 places to post, if there's some other places to post. I'm kind of making our to-do list
Yeah.
here. And then, I am going to, I have my meetings with union leadership next week, so I'll kind of process this with them. And then also, we'll need to work on, Leslie will kind of need to work on our, forms for staff to fill out, their surveys if they're interested in the teams. Correct?
Before you do that last piece, you talk about maybe having another work session, inviting this, maybe union leaders, maybe a representative from the team to come together to figure out how we want to choose.
And Leslie.
Yes, and Leslie and Stephanie and Susan. It's just that, is that correct?
I would like that, yes.
So,
Yeah, it's just
a
a-
committee meeting / work session.
Yes.
Where you are going to invite specific people, or are you ask, kind of putting a call out. They're interested in giving us input, kind of like what's this next meeting looking like? And what's on the agenda? And sorry.
I think
Everybody's sort of. I mean, it's hard to have a meeting with tons of people, so I would maybe suggest like the union leaders.
I think the challenge with that, I mean, I like that idea, the challenge with that is I think you should also have someone from leadership team, and you don't want to influence someone from leadership team that is interested in this role.
Well, no, that's true. But we should pick somebody and invite them.
So,
Maybe that's a.
to go back, to the survey that somebody would fill out, like a Google form. If we made a Google form, that somebody fills out, okay, are you interested in being part of this interview committee? Then they fill it out, we have to include the dates, so we know that they're available the whole time. You could also put on there, are you interested in leading this team? So that's one way you could get that information, or you could ask the union leaders if they want to appoint somebody who would be in charge of that group. So I mean, there's a couple different ways you could do that. Like you said, you would need a, you could talk to Ella about, a student, if she wants to head that up, or if she has a recommendation, and then, like we said, I could reach out to the leadership team and see if there's anybody who's interested. I mean, the nice thing about the form is that if you have more than one person who wants to head it up, it's a little bit equal in that selection process. I don't know, throwing out some ideas there.
So you're suggesting on the website that we have a form that people can fill out if they want to be part of the process? Okay.
Because then everybody has an opportunity.
Right, that's actually good, that's fair.
But do you want to put out that form? Do you want to have, I'm just trying to, you wanted to have a meeting, not putting this on you, but another work session to discuss with
My
some of
problem,
the groups on how we're going to form these
yes.
other groups.
Hey, here's what we're thinking, other groups. These are the representatives we want, just the leads, and then a few, whether it's the administration, great, not applying, I think that's fine. What would you, what are you, this is what we're thinking, does that make sense? Or we misaligned, what are you thinking for how you would like to run your interview, and with whom? How would you like to go out and find those people? That's it.
Oh, and question, in our next committee meeting, what if we had a work session within that committee meeting, and that's when we ask these groups, because they're gonna be there anyways. So is that a thing that can be done, where,
I'm sorry,
Now.
can you restate that?
okay, so our next board
Four.
meeting, sorry, our
Oh.
next board meeting, could we have a subsection agenda work session to talk about this? Because those that would want to be involved are gonna be at that meeting, just to have an efficient process without creating another work session.
Does that narrow your timeline for collecting people for those public groups? If you would wait until the board meeting, which is what they do, 17, then the application ends on the 29th.
You can add the interest form on the website and then elaborate on it.
I guess my question to you all is how do you ensure that whoever wants to lead it, that you've heard from all voices? Because if you just kind of appoint somebody to be kind of the head of a group, as opposed to putting it out to anybody to fill out this form. If when you put out this form, you say, hey, if you'd like to lead the group, and you know, maybe you have 4 people say they want to lead the group. As opposed to just appointing somebody, I wouldn't want anybody who would like a chance to be the lead, you know, head up the group to not have an opportunity to do that if they can't come to me. So I'm just trying, you know, we heard at our last board meeting that they, you know, people want an opportunity to have as many people involved as possible. I just want to make sure we're doing that. Making that an equitable process.
And with this, I'm just trying to operationalize this, I think this is where the hard part is, right? Trying to get all the collaborators into the same meeting space to collaborate on the next steps. But what is our next meeting? And then how much time do we give people to fill out the forms? To then decide when our next meeting is, to decide next steps.
Well, within a couple of days, I mean, you know, we can say, hey, the board has established, you know, working together, the board has established this process.
Okay.
We have this webpage now that has this information. We're in the process of establishing our interview groups.
Mhm.
If you're interested in being part of these interview groups, please fill out this form.
And
And
we can
then-
set a timeline on that,
Okay,
you know, needs to be completed by the 17th of March or something.
And that information goes out to all staff, all students, all, you know.
Mhm.
And then we can make sure everybody's getting all the information at the same time.
and then when is our next meeting? Our work session meeting, and what do we do, what do we talk about?
Decide that, and we probably need to put that on the survey form, but if you want to lead your group, can you make it to the same meeting?
This is our next meeting, a week from tonight.
I don't think that's enough time.
2 weeks,
That's the one. Let's say Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So in 2 weeks is the board meeting.
I mean, you could have a work session before the board meeting. Or after the board meeting.
So when I recap, you're talking about the possibility of, in the next 2 weeks, we put out an application. One of the questions is whether you'd like to lead the group.
Or be involved
Or-
in it. Or be involved in the interview team at all.
Right, I guess I'm assuming that if somebody fills out the application, it's because they do want to be involved on an interview team. Whether or not they want to lead, the team could be
One of the
another-
questions.
One of the questions. And then we gather that data, and then if there's a work session on the 17th, Who's coming, who's included?
We'd have to process through that information and then invite them before.
Invite all of them?
All of
No, I'm just
Invite
saying whoever we
the ones,
end
I mean, I love them all, but that's a lot of
Right.
people.
No, like I said, we have to evaluate that information.
But we don't necessarily wanna cherry pick people.
I think we should.
So, how would you like to, if we did have 4 people say, I wanna leave the licensed group, how would you like to select the person?
I think
Well, yeah, you're probably gonna run into, I mean, two situations there. I mean, if you, you don't, let's just talk about the classified interview team. I mean, if you have 50 people apply to be on that team, you don't want to have an interview team of people, like 10 or 12, like I said. So, what's your process for that? Are you gonna randomly select people?
What if we let them choose who they want? So we bring it back to say like,
I don't feel
Or
like
just
that feels
all
very
gonna choose- yeah, I
equitable,
don't think
because
so.
in the end, we have people who are favorites, and they're gonna just pick their friends.
I think you need to
Right.
find a, unbiased way.
Do you want to have specific qualifiers, like you wanna have 3 people from the high school, 3 people from the elementary school, 3 people from the bus barn? Or do you want it to be just completely random and we are just picking names out of a hat? Or another option that we think about it?
I think we should say, we're just talking this up and we should be talking now. I think we should say that if we have people coming from these different areas, that we should have at least one of them as part of the conversation. If one group, if everybody in different groups have applied, then we should look at that to make it, to get that variety of opinion. From there, if you have 20 people who applied from the elementary, then I think that becomes a randomized selection. But that we have people being represented.
I think we need, I personally would want representation, but if you're talking classified staff from each group.
Yeah, and the classified groups are the most complex group in the sense that, you've got people from food service, from transportation,
Classified,
custodial. Did I say classified?
I don't know. what that is.
Yeah.
So there's so many different employee groups
That's-
that, all with really, a really important voice to
Mhm.
share. So, to be able to make sure, and I think that's an important thing, Stephanie, for us to share is that, we really would like as many voices as possible, in that process. So yeah, and I agree the point of, having, making sure there's staff from all buildings.
Right. So if you have 20 people, 20 classified apply, say they're interested. And I don't know how many different groups are, let's say there are 10 groups. Then we have 10 groups did apply, we have at least one representative in one group, if they applied.
And the different employee
The
groups,
different
yeah.
employee groups, and then we narrow down based on that, depending on how many people apply there.
And once again, like, let's say, so that we can be as equitable and unbiased as possible, let's say you have 5 bus drivers who apply, so, you've got 5 bus drivers. There's just so it doesn't look like, we want to give more voice as possible.
but again, at our next meeting, what are we talking about? Is it
Union
This.
needs. I think it should be union needs and some the administrative staff that are not applying for
the next work session
the next work session.
to talk about the interview groups?
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that feels right. Question mark?
So they
Simplify.
personally don't have to be a part of it, and they're.
They don't.
they're-
No.
Hey, this is what we're thinking.
Well, and they have been voted into their positions.
Right.
Right. As leadership.
They're
as their
supposed to
team.
be representative, they're supposed to be representative of that group, right? So.
And it's the best we can do. It's
Right.
it's the best we can do.
Have to get these moving.
Process.
Yes,
Right.
with
If
them.
you talk
Right.
about the process, you can,
We will invite them.
and you may have already had, if,
We're not being.
am I understanding that you would want this Google form to go out before that meeting.
Yes.
And then I think you can share, meeting results. You may have a whole bunch of people fill it out before then.
Right. So I would say, at our next board meeting, a work session prior, which we invite the representative of the union groups, as well as, you can take a pulse of some of the leadership or that.
I'm
That
happy to-
doesn't intend to fall,
I'm
join
happy to
us
talk to them
to
about
talk
that.
about and be
Uh-huh.
part of that process for the interviewing moving forward.
And we'll let Ella.
And make sure she is part of it as well.
Right,
Okay.
so we'll want to make sure she can come to that meeting.
Right.
Or the. Are you wanting to do that work session before or after the board meeting?
What can this team do?
I would say, yeah. I was saying for the staff, if they're coming from school,
Yeah.
they could just stay.
All right,
As
fine,
opposed
it's
to
not all
like-
about us.
So do like
I
5 o'clock work session?
Mhm.
I would think that,
Yeah.
That's good.
Who knows how long our board meeting will go?
Work session.
You have to quit that.
okay, so we're talking 5 o'clock on the 17th.
Okay, so we agreed to hold a work session prior to the March 17th regular meeting. And tell me again who is going to be invited to that work session.
So Megan.
I don't need necessarily names.
You need
okay.
leadership.
You need leadership. Yeah, so classified and certified, and then I will talk to, about a leadership team representative. And
Student representative.
And then this forum.
Yes.
Correct. This committee.
Let's see.
I see you, please.
Chuck.
No.
No, not yet.
And we will, prior to that, work on creating a Google form to send out where people can voice their interest and if they would like to head that committee or not. Right.
We'll bring
With
that.
specific date.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
They need to be.
Yes.
Yeah, or, so do we have those? We good with the specific dates that we
Yes,
got
are you good with this
in our
specific
timeline
date?
on there? Can you scroll?
Yes.
That we need to go. So,
April 7th and 8th
yeah,
is the semifinalist interviews. Finalists selected and then I don't believe the groups are involved in this finalist spend day in the district. Is that correct?
The one.
The April 20th through 24th, your finalists are spending the day in the district and participating in a community
I
forum.
mean, they could come to the community forum. A lot of them came.
But they don't have
Forum
to
when
be
I
there.
was there. They don't have a response.
it's the April 7th and 8th that would be required, is that right?
That is correct.
So we have plan for the next meeting.
All
right. Are we good to open it up to the public now? Or we move forward,
Well,
or-
actually, just to clarify for the posting.
Okay.
One of the things we didn't discuss is salary range. So Susan and I did some background as far as similarly sized districts. We looked at 10, including our current superintendent's salary. The range was fairly large, spanning from about 150 up to 258 or something like that. Which seemed fairly large. So looking specifically at those closest to us, what seemed most reasonable was 150 to 175.
The ESD has done some research in, with what we call like districts, so districts that are similar size to us. And, that range, like Stephanie says, starts at about 150, goes up to either 175 or 180 for districts our size, depending on experience. With a brand new superintendent coming about 150, and somebody with experience probably about my level coming at the higher area.
Does a superintendent get increases Yes.
Most superintendents enter in with a 3-year contract and
Okay.
then their contracts are negotiated for 3 years.
Well, I would defer to you guys who are done the research and. I still think it's, if that's the market standard.
That's what the research shows.
Yes. then
How
I-
do you determine the range when they bring their experience? Is that something you guys determine?
The school board negotiates the contract. The superintendent position is the only position that negotiates with the board for their contract.
One thing I just popped into my head, we looked at a proposal from some consultants, including OSBA. And OSBA does have some services that would be included in that package, but they also have materials. For instance, negotiating a contract with your superintendent. They have resources that can help with that. So if you decided that you really want to work with somebody who does this a lot more than we do, that could be an option, just sort of looking at their individual resources and services. And, when you choose to hire them to help you with one step or two steps along the way.
And the district does have a template that they've used with past superintendents and with me that has all the components of it.
So we all agree 150 to 175.
Yes. All right.
I think you're ready to move on to public comment.
All right, good. Okay, the meeting will now be open to receive public comments regarding the superintendent's search. We value the time and initiative members of the public take to share their thoughts with the board. The board's role during public comment is not to immediately respond, but to listen. If follow-up is necessary, we will direct our superintendent to do so. Remember that we are all role models for our students. Please share your thoughts respectfully. Should any public comment include complaints regarding a personally identifiable staff member, the board chair will direct the speaker to the proper administrative processes found in board policy KL, public complaints. Speakers will have 3 minutes to express their thoughts. And do we have anyone online?
Oh, we got one.
Yeah, I'll express if that's fine. It's Chad Klaus.
Go for it.
All right, yeah, I heard some comments earlier about making sure that, whether we should or should not involve our staff and stakeholders as part of the process at different points. And I think the more that you involve the stakeholders in every possible part of this, the more we're going to seek a candidate that fits the needs of Seaside School District, especially with the people that are on a day-to-day basis being a part of everything that goes on. We appreciate the work and the questions that you guys have done here and kind of put together. And some of those things might fit a little bit better if we get all the people that are here, that are a part of it, and just to be an active part all of the time. And I volunteer for any and all part of that. So I appreciate you guys' time, and just getting everybody a part of it is what matters most to the people that work for the school district. So thank you.
Thanks, Chad. Thank you.
Chad's on committee.
All right, Chad.
Watch for the form, Chad.
Yep.
Just tell me when it's out and I'll sign it.
Is there anyone else? All right.
We'll go our marching orders.
Good of the orders is. I don't know. Anything else to come, anything else to come before the board? Or committee?
You gotta get your down.
It was just one question that I had about the community. And what would be the reason why we wouldn't want them there? If community could.
I don't think we don't want them. I think it's more of a we're hiring in our district. And then once we finalize a few people or then the community. Two questions.
Because I think parents are also part of it.
Yeah.
Oh, they are. But I mean, part of that community, I don't know, I wouldn't want to exclude it. I know it is a lot, and so I'm just tossing that out there of like, do we want to make sure we hear all the votes?
I think because we'll have so many applicants, I think our responsibility is to really narrow down what it is that we're looking for. Especially with the interview groups first, then we really decide what it is that's gonna help with the business aspect. And then once we get to the later version, it's the community gets to see best versions of what we have available.
Yeah, and whether you have 3 or 2 or 1, or however many candidates you bring back as your finalists, then, then you can work with them. So, like I kind of shared with you, last time, it was kind of broken down with different community groups throughout the whole day and the evening. And, like I said, depending on how you want to organize that, it can, be really valuable.
PTO. We don't do them. Yeah, so good. It's a good question.
All right.
We're good.
Don't forget to use the gavel.
Oh, I call this meeting adjourned.
Okay.
I forgot what I say. I am too loosey goosey.
Okay, great.